All right, welcome. So let's just dive on in here, okay? The topic of confidence, of self-belief, this particular topic holds a very special place in my heart, okay? It was the topic of my first podcast I ever did and YouTube video. If you've been around that long, maybe you even remember it. You can go back and listen to it if you want to. It's the topic I would also say about 90% of my hypnotherapy and coaching clients end up working on with me, even if they came to me because their original issue was something completely unrelated. Maybe it was weight loss. Maybe it was starting their business. Maybe it was a big goal that they wanted to do. 90% of the time, and I'm not even kidding, it all comes down somehow, some way. It ends up coming back to confidence, because confidence really does seem to be at the root of everything. Okay. And it's the area I would even say in my own life that I've invested the most in reprogramming most heavily, that I've seen the most phenomenal results for. I mean, I swear, and this might fault me for this, this might seem like an overstatement, right? Nothing good in my life would be here without my own positive self-belief and the confidence that I've cultivated. Okay? I mean, literally anything. I wouldn't have my own business. I wouldn't have grown that business to the level of success that it is thankfully seen. I wouldn't be married to the hunky husband, soulmate that I'm married to. I wouldn't be living in my dream home. I wouldn't have been on my favorite reality TV show, Big Brother. Like, none of this would have happened. This amazing life that I'm so thankful for would not have happened if I hadn't deliberately trained my brain to think positive and confident thoughts. Okay? I mean, why do you think I'm in this job? Why do you think I'm a hypnotherapist? Why do you think I do the work that I do? It's changed my life. And so I've decided to dedicate my life towards it. That was just the decision that I make. So at this point, at least speaking personally, I wholeheartedly consider myself a confident person. Do you consider yourself a confident person? Like, is it a part of your identity? Is it who you are? Are you like, yeah, that's me, right? Being confident is just part of my identity. It's part of my self-concept. It's how I see myself. It's how I know myself to be, right? Which in turn, because I see myself this way, because I've taken ownership of that quality, because it's part of my identity and I've taken ownership in my life, there's very little that I feel like I can't do. And I want you to fully understand that it didn't always used to be that way, right? Like, I didn't always used to think that if I have a goal, if I have a project, if I have a dream, I'm going to make it happen no matter what. I earned that, okay? I trained for that. So if that doesn't seem like that's coming natural to you, if that's not something that you're like, yeah, it doesn't sound like me, you can earn it. You can learn it. You can train for it, okay? Becoming a confident person really comes back to that training, okay? That brain training. And that's what we're going to be diving into here today. That's what I want to teach you how to train for. I want to dive in and explain all the different brain training methods that I use, okay? What brain training is, how you do it, some of the most powerful methodologies to use to train your brain. We're going to cover it all, okay? So this video, as I was kind of like creating it and thinking, what would be like the most like transformative thing? It's kind of a culmination of like all my years of hypnotherapy, like jammed into one training. So I hope, get your notepad out, okay? I want you to take some notes. It's going to get really deep, okay? If for some reason you don't know me, I'm Brittany Hoops. I'm a hypnotherapist and I'm an identity coach, right? Becoming who you want to be, that identity piece is so crucial. Being confident, that's part of the identity that we just talked about, so crucial that that's what I coach on and help my clients with. So I primarily work with my students and clients through an online course. I also work with folks one-on-one as well. Honestly, sometimes when I think back on like this whole journey here, it really feels like I've lived like 3 different lives in one lifetime. And I'm sure I have a million more ahead of me too. But when I think about where I was even just 5 years ago, okay, 5 short years, shortly before, what year? Yeah, like right before the pandemic. If I think about that, I can't even recognize that version of myself. How about you? How do you feel 5 years ago? I feel like everything in my life has absolutely flipped on its head and changed. And, if we talk about an identity shift, right? Like, I feel literally unrecognizable, and there's a reason for that. I'm not sure if you're aware, but I used to be a researcher. Yeah, before my hypnotherapist days, I used to be a researcher. I worked for big companies like Instagram, the toy company Mattel. I made decent money, but I was miserable. Okay. I was so unhappy. I was so depressed. Okay. I was severely depressed. I was contemplating suicide. As far as brain training goes, okay, like my brain was like a feral, wild, untrained wolf. That's the best way I can describe it. As opposed to what we might consider a trained brain, which is a domesticated family pet and a nice, sweet pet dog that you really love, right? Like that's a trained brain. Mine was the opposite. It was like full wolf mode, okay? And I know I've told this story before, but I remember one morning I was deeply, deeply depressed, could not get out of bed. It was yet another day I was going to spend in bed. And I just kind of had this lightning bolt of inspiration. And this thought just sort of appeared out of nowhere. And the thought was, could hypnosis help with this depression? I mean, I think where this thought, I've thought about this a lot, right? Because I tell this story a lot. But I think this thought came because there had been this random hypnotist that had visited my high school psychology summer camp way back in the day, right? And for whatever reason, I had reached a certain level of depression, right? Where I was literally willing to try anything. I was at my wit's end. And hypnosis at the time seemed something that kind of like seemed scary. Like, I don't know. That's why I'm like so surprised that I even entertained it, because I was kind of a little scared by it. Like I didn't understand it. It was something that I kind of associated with like olden day, like Dracula movies or something. Like I was a researcher, right? I was as logical, still am, but I'm as logical as they get. And yet here I was laying there in bed, teary-eyed, Googling hypnotherapy. Search results came up. I found a hypnotherapy audio for depression. I figured, what in the world do I have to lose, right? I listened to it for 30 days straight. And wouldn't you know, I trained my brain out of that depression. I did a complete 180, okay? And after that like transformative month, I kind of took a step back. I looked at my life. I looked at what had just happened to me. And I thought, what in the world is going on here? The researcher in me was just like really intrigued, was really curious and a little freaked out because, like I said, I was, and I still am a very logical person. But I knew something was going on, right? There was something scientific that was going on here, and I wanted to know how it worked. And so I wanted to know how I had managed to trick my brain by simply listening to someone else's words and some soft music, how that could turn me from contemplating suicide, which is very, very, very serious, to loving and embracing my life, for me personally, within the span of 30 days, okay? So, since I was deciding to live this great life now, right, and I was pumped up about life and I wanted to do something about it, I decided, well, let's take up a new hobby. Let's learn about this hypnotherapy thing. Like, let's learn how this works. I enrolled in a certification, which is so funny. I did like no research about the certification that I enrolled in. Since then, I've done many more certifications and trainings. But if I would have known that it would have become my whole life's work, I think I would have researched it. But I literally just signed up for fun. Just like first one I found, I was like, yeah, let's do this. For this particular training, you had to do 20 hours of sessions with other people to earn your certification, right? Once I started to tell folks that I was doing hypnotherapy sessions, that's what I was doing. The demand was so freaking strong. And I ended up finishing the certification with 80 hours. I'd done so much more, and I had even more, on a wait list. I freaking loved it. I absolutely loved. It was one thing to do hypnotherapy myself and be in my own inner mind, but to help somebody else explore their inner minds and even get a glimpse into what that experience is like for them was just so beautiful. So I loved working with people. I loved teaching people. I wanted people to know how their brains worked, how they could work with their brains rather than against their brains, right? Because they don't teach you this in school. I went to a lot of schooling and they don't teach you this. And unless you're raised by very incredibly self-aware, emotionally intelligent individuals, which I love you, mom and dad, you are not. Sorry. I know you know this. You don't learn this growing up, okay? It's not typically something we learn. So if we want to be happy adults, we have to teach it and we have to learn it on our own. We have to prioritize it. We have to say, yes, this is what matters to me. This is what matters to my life. Long story short, fast forward 6 months, I built up a part-time practice. I decided, okay, this is like becoming a real thing. Like, let's leave that cushy corporate job. I crunched the numbers. I cried my eyes out. I was so scared. And then I decided to go full-time with my hypnotherapy practice. I started my own business. I've never looked back since. It's just been booming and going and such a beautiful thing that I'm able to do as a career now. And I think because we don't learn how to train our brains, how to utilize the full power of our minds to our benefit, that's why we often assume that it's a hard thing to do, that it's an impossible thing to do. Things that we don't know how to do, we tend to think are hard, right? Because if they were easy, we would know how to do them. I mean, I freaking thought that this was like magic at first, okay? It freaked me out. Back when I did hypnosis, the first time there, I was desperate, but I still thought it was a little weird. I was still kind of judging it a little bit, even me. I even remember having that hesitation becoming a full-time hypnotherapist because, here at the time I worked at Instagram. It was a cool job. People knew it was a hard job to get. Like, my ego was like fanning a little bit. And I thought, I'm going to give this up to go be a hypnotherapist, to go be a freak. Like, that's what it felt. Which is like, I am a freak. I'll fully own that. But like, that's what it felt like. And I was judging it, right? I didn't want people to think that I was some guy, middle-aged guy who wears a leather vest and has a goatee and makes people cluck like chickens on stage, right? Like that was the visual that I had, which is so fun. I laugh at this because I know just how absolutely opposite this is now. That's what I thought a hypnotist was. But I learned that hypnotherapy is so different. And learning to train your brain is so much easier and actually quite scientific, which is why the researcher in me is still alive and well, that it's so much easier than we made it out to be. And therefore, feeling more positive, feeling more confident can be far easier for us too. In fact, it's our natural state of being, okay? You might scoff at me when I say that. You might say, oh yeah, Brittany, it's so natural. Why can't I do it? But that's just because you've become so used to not feeling that way. You have forgotten what it feels like to be in tune with who you truly are. You've somehow managed to silence that part of yourself, to bury that part of yourself. Our brains want to feel good. That's their natural, healthiest state. They want to feel aligned. They want to feel connected. It's the truth of who we are. It's just sometimes we get distracted and sometimes we forget. And so, if we go back to that sort of wolf and dog analogy, right? As they say, there are no bad dogs. There are only bad owners. And so I like to say there are no bad brains. They're just humans who haven't learned how to use their brains fully yet, haven't learned how to give themselves what they need, right? And we're so lucky. We're so lucky that tools like hypnotherapy have become more and more and more destigmatized. That's why I was laughing so much when I was sharing how I used to feel about hypnotists, because it's just not really a belief that's really held all that much anymore. I tell people that I'm a hypnotherapist loud and proud now, right? It's a good thing. I help people feel better in their own minds, in their own brains. I help them create the kind of lives that they want to live, right? That's the best thing of all. And it's amazing how simple this is. So let's break it down. Let's dive in. To train your brain, you only really need 3 things, okay? You need to be able to find some time. You need to be able to go into a quiet and comfortable place where it's safe to close your eyes and sort of go into your inner world. And number 3, you have to have an understanding of the mind. And you have to know what techniques are going to create the outcomes that you want to experience, such as thinking those positive, confident thoughts, like we're learning how to do here today, okay? The first 2, very easy. Well, they're all 3 very easy, but the first 2 are self-explanatory. The third one is what we're going to focus on here today. So I call hypnotherapy brain training because it's using hypnotherapeutic techniques. It's by using those techniques that we can reprogram the subconscious mind. So think about that word, reprogram. The very nature of reprogramming something, right, assumes that it's in one state, it's in a programmed state, it operates by one set of instructions, one program, one habitual line of thinking. And so we want to come in and we want to change that program, right? We want to reprogram it. And so how do we do this? Well, it requires repetition. Repetition, repetition, repetition. Notice what I'm doing there? Okay. You probably heard that one of the most effective ways to learn something is to repeat it, right? Back in my actress days, I would repeat my lines again and again and again and again until I could remember my script and my lines, right? We repeat things before a big test. That's how we learn it. Okay. This is because our brains need repetition. On average, it takes hearing something 7 times before you remember it, because this is how our brain works. Just as we think about, getting back to the puppy brain analogy, right? That puppy that you're training, or should I say programming, to learn to sit and to stay, you have to repeat that command again and again and again until it learns that behavior. So it's kind of just like going to the gym. Right? You have to show up every day. You have to lift those weights. You can't just do it once and then all of a sudden, bloop, abs. I mean, maybe if you're in The Sims or something, you could do that. But no, we have to repeat. We have to lift those weights again and again. You have to continue to exert repetition on your muscles so that they grow big and strong, right? It's the same with the brain. So it's the same with practicing, with rehearsing, with programming, reprogramming new ways of being and new ways of thinking. So that's what we do in hypnotherapy. It's the nature of hypnosis, is to get your mind and your body into a relaxed and just receptive state, an open state, I kind of think of that part of the process as sort of like changing into your gym clothes and before you're going to do a good workout at the gym, right? Maybe you do some light stretching, right? You're getting yourself open, receptive for that workout. You don't have to do your training and this repetition in the state of hypnosis. I mean, many people who don't know how to do hypnotherapy don't do this, right? But if you don't, you're going to find it quite uncomfortable and laborious that way, okay? It'd kind of be like if you decided to do a workout, instead of changing into your gym clothes and stretching, you wore your office clothes to the gym. You tried to lift the weights in your pantsuit without doing any stretching. You're probably going to end up ripping your outfit and you might, hurt a muscle or two in the process as well. The workout would not be nearly as comfortable or as effective if you didn't have that right footwear, if you didn't stretch, right? And so that's why in hypnotherapy, we want to prime your brain to be open and to be willing to change, because that's going to get so much more oomph out of the repetition that you do. So once you've reached that state, that open receptive state of trance, the theta brainwave state, that's when the repetition, the reprogramming can begin. Okay? Now, this doesn't take nearly as long as it takes to train your muscles into 6-pack abs, okay? Thank goodness, right? Due to neuroplasticity, the idea of neuroplasticity, our brains and minds are actually quite malleable. That when you know how to train them, they train quite easily. And that's usually why I suggest to my students, just give it 30 minutes per day for at least 30 days, okay? That's a good rule of thumb. Some people need less time, some people may need more, but that's why I designed my course, my Be Confident in 30 Days course. I designed it around that reasoning because that's the average. That's what it takes for the average person. It doesn't take long, okay? And this training is training that you can do when you're sitting. It's training you can do when you're lying down. It's training that you do purposely when you're relaxed, which I don't know about you, but I love feeling relaxed. It feels great to be relaxed. You do this training with your eyes closed. I mean, my students literally, I had a student tell me, it feels like a mental massage. And I was like, ooh, that is such a good, I'm going to use that. That is such a good, way of describing hypnotherapy. So all of this is to say, it's far less grueling and exhausting than sweating it out at the gym anyways, okay? As far as trainings go. I know which one I'm picking. Okay, so let's hypothetically say you came to me, which I know you did because you're watching this video. You wanted to think more positively more of the time, okay? You wanted to believe in yourself. You wanted to believe in your dreams. You wanted to feel confident, to think more confident thoughts, right? You wanted to be confident that you could be confident because our thoughts do create and influence our feelings, and confidence is surely a feeling. Here are the two primary hypnotherapeutic brain training methods that I would suggest to you, okay? Of course, they're far more than this. They're way more than this. But here's what I would suggest for you to start, okay? Assuming that you're already in that relaxed, open, receptive state, you're ready to train, you can do these two techniques, right? You can repeat affirmations, suggestions. You can use releasing visualizations. So let's dive into both of these, okay? My students who are enrolled in my confidence brain training course, they implement these two brain training techniques probably more than any other technique because they're really foundational techniques for shifting habitual thought patterns and to help you think more confidently and more positively, okay? So let's dive into the first one, which is repeating affirmations first. And I want to share, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you here so you can see this. Let's do that. Okay. So I want to make sure that you can see this. Great. So let's dive into the repeating affirmations first, because I pretty much guarantee you, if you haven't been using hypnotherapy to do this, if you've been just like looking in the mirror and just being like, I am great, I am great, I am great. Like, no, that's not, that's how a lot of people think we use affirmations. But if you haven't been using hypnotherapy to do this, you've been making it so much harder than it needs to be. And I want to, I want to tell you how this is, and then we can talk about the releasing visualizations part. So I'm going to give you some examples here. I'm going to walk you through different ways to use these brain training techniques. I'm going to share my screen like I just did here so that you can see some of the things that we're talking about. All right. So the non-negotiable technique really is the affirmations piece. Okay. Affirmations, as I'm sure you well know, are just positive thoughts. All right. They're short, they're impactful sentences, they're thoughts that reflect how you want to be thinking. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you believe these things yet. Okay. I'll get into that, but it's how you want to be thinking. So if you were thinking these thoughts already, you would already be feeling positive and confident. So I really kind of view them as the fuel to a positive and a confident mind. Affirmations, okay? We want to feed our brain with as many of these thoughts as we can, as often as we can. So you might have heard a hypnotherapist also call an affirmation by the name of suggestions, okay? Same thing, affirmations, suggestions, same things. Because when I, as your hypnotherapist, when I speak an affirmation to you, I'm making the suggestion to you that, hey, let's feel this way. Let's think this way. Let's take this action, whatever the suggestion or the positive affirmation may be. I'm offering you a thought, and then you're listening to me and you're thinking it. You're adopting it, right? I'm kind of like your thinking training wheels, right? Think when you're first learning to ride a bike, right? You kind of need the training wheels to sort of help you. That's what a hypnotherapist is. I kind of throw out some thoughts. Hey, how about we think this one? And you're like, oh, yeah, that feels a lot better than the thought I've been thinking. Thank you. You adopt it. And when you think the thoughts that I offer you, you're starting to find your own balance with it, right? Until the moment where you're off and riding that bike of thinking your own positive thoughts on your own. Okay, that's the goal, right? Just to be able to do it on your own. And because our brain is in that relaxed, open, sort of receptive state, again, with the dog metaphor, it's kind of like your brain is like, it's like this little panting puppy that's like, yeah, I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to play. Like, please give me the good feeling thoughts. Make me feel confident, right? That's your brain in hypnotherapy. You're the one listening to hypnotherapy. You then want to follow through with the suggestion. And so you want to take that thought on as your own. I offer you a thought. It's almost kind of like I'm a stylist sort of offering you a jacket. And then you take that jacket, that thought, and you put it on. And then you look in the mirror and you're like feeling great about yourself when you wear that jacket, right? You love how you look. You love how you feel when you think that thought. So you want to wear that jacket more and more. And so, you want to continue to think that thought more and more. That's the key piece here, right? So the more that you train yourself to think that thought, wear that jacket, the more it's then the first item of clothing that you reach for before you leave the house. So you see where I'm going here? So There are two kinds of suggestions or affirmations that you might find, okay? There are direct suggestions and indirect suggestions. So let's take a look at the first one here, direct suggestion. A direct suggestion is going to be the one that you're probably most familiar with, the one that you can use also to practice with your own self-hypnosis at home, okay? You don't need a hypnotherapist for direct suggestions, although hypnotherapists can certainly offer them. I know I always do, okay? What makes a suggestion a direct one is that there's no fluff, okay? There's nothing hidden here, okay? It's just a statement, okay? Why I like to teach direct suggestion is because it's very easy for you to use, and it's also very, very powerful. So if you followed me for a while now, you might have heard me tell this story of how I trained my brain to believe that I could be cast on the CBS reality TV show Big Brother, of which I was on season 24, okay? The hypnosis that I did every night was very simple, okay? And it was a form, technically, of self-hypnosis, which just means doing hypnotherapy without needing to listen to an audio, okay? Doing it in your own mind, guiding yourself through it, okay? It's something you can do yourself. So every night before I went to bed, I relaxed my body. I entered into that trance state and I repeated a direct suggestion to myself, a positive affirmation 24 times, okay? And my direct suggestion, my affirmation was, I am a house guest on Big Brother 24. Now, I repeated it 24 times because, well, I don't know. I wanted to be on season 24, so it just felt kind of fitting, right? It's just me being silly. But I do suggest, again, this all comes back to repetition. So I do suggest that you repeat it for several minutes or at least 25 or so times if you're counting, okay? You can pair this practice with what we're going to talk about and to dive into mental rehearsal, visualization practices, which I'm going to talk about in a bit, or you could just repeat the statement to yourself until you fall asleep. Okay? Doing it before bed is a really great time to do it because your brain's already moving into that natural theta brainwave state. Okay? It's making its way on towards sleep, which is the delta brainwave state, and it passes through trance in the meantime. Okay? So use it as a mantra to sort of help focus your brain as you fall asleep. Now, at first, when I practiced this direct suggestion, I didn't believe it one bit. I was straight up lying to myself. That's what it felt like, okay? I was like, me on TV? No way. I'm too normal to be on reality TV show. I don't have a good enough storyline to be on a show like that. Like all these negative thoughts were just popping up like weeds all over the place, okay? I didn't believe it. But guess what? Beliefs are merely thoughts that you keep thinking. What do you got to do to keep thinking something? You have to repeat it. And by repeating affirmations, that's the brain training task of creating new and different beliefs. So the more that I practiced this, I started to build my belief in that thought. Just like you build a muscle, the more you go to the gym, right? Until a few weeks in, I said, I'm a house guest on BB24. And all of a sudden there was less resistance. There was like, okay, well, they have to pick somebody. Well, they've never had a hypnotherapist on the show before. That's kind of interesting. I am a super fan, right? So my brain had been trained to no longer, all of a sudden it was accepting this new idea. I had trained it to find evidence that supported this new little baby belief that I've been creating, okay? Just like a plant. You gotta water it. You gotta water it. You gotta watch it grow. And here I was growing this new belief. Okay. And then by time for my auditions, boom, this belief, it was so huge. I'd repeated that direct suggestion so many times to my brain. My brain was fully on board with it. It was so familiar with it. It just was like, well, of course. It was just like, yeah, of course. I'm exactly who they're looking to cast for this season. So I'm going to show up and they're going to find me. They're going to be able to do their jobs. This is going to go exactly as it needs to. I'm made for this. I can't wait. I'm excited, right? You can only imagine the kind of energy and deep inner knowing that I showed up with to my auditions, right? This, of course, energy. It wasn't cocky, but it was just knowing, but it was contagious, okay? Those producers, those casting directors, they couldn't watch my audition without feeling that same way, okay? I knew I was made for the show. They knew it too. This energy transference. In terms of manifestation terms, right? We call this being an energetic match. to something. Okay, when you believe something, then you are an energetic match to it. Not just the forcing yourself to believe it, but really truly believing it. You've repeated it enough time that it is now a solid belief. That's what direct suggestion does. Okay, it builds up the belief and the energy so that we can be a match to what we desire. So direct suggestions, they cut to the chase, okay? They directly tell your brain what you want to believe. Again, you don't have to believe it at first to think it. It's by thinking it, it's by repeating it that you then believe it. That's really key for you to understand. I'm going to say it again because we know repetition works. You don't have to believe it at first to think it. It's by thinking it that you start to believe it, okay? So let's dive into some examples of direct suggestion that you can use to kind of create some more positivity and some more confidence, okay? Here's just a few examples. I can do this. Every day and every way, things are getting better and better. I show up as full, authentic me. Okay, I love these. I just made these up. There's nothing really magical about these statements in particular, but let me show you the kind of the parts that are the building blocks of these direct suggestions, okay? How I came up with them so easily. You can create your own. What do you want to do? Insert whatever you want to do. I can row this boat. I don't know. If that's your goal, to row boats, then sure. Every day and every way, blank. Insert what you want to be a normal part of your everyday life. Every day and every way, I'm able to complete my homework. I don't know. I should have come up with examples in advance, okay? I show up as blank. Who do you want to be? This is the identity part. Who do you want to be? I show up as the confident person I know I am. Ooh, I like that one. That's a good one, right? You can create these your own. You can customize these to be your own. Let me offer you just kind of a pro tip here, okay? You always want to make sure that your direct suggestions, your affirmations are in the present tense. That's how your brain interprets and understands them, okay? They always have to be phrased in the positive. So here's what you would not say. This would not be an affirmation, okay? I never feel depressed. I never feel depressed. Nope. Your brain is going to interpret that as I feel depressed. I feel depressed. It's going to it crosses out the never, the negative. Okay. And that's the opposite, I'm sure, of how you want to hypnotize yourself, right? Instead, I would suggest that you might say something like, every day and every way, I'm feeling happier and happier, right? See how that's the positive? It's the opposite of the depression. So a good rule of thumb is if you know what you don't want, how you don't want to feel, what is the opposite of that? Let's focus on that instead. That's what you're going to use for your direct suggestion. So here's a fun little hack, okay? Not sure what to use for your affirmations? You can use ChatGPT to help you brainstorm, okay? You can write the way you want to feel. Let's actually try something. So let's see, I made a prompt. Let me find my prompt here. I can show you guys. Let's just show you. So let's do this prompt here. You can literally just write what you want to feel, write the kind of change that you want to make, and then let's ask ChatGPT to create some affirmations for you. So when you do this, though, you always want to check over them. You always want to make sure that they're in the present tense before you use them. But let's just go ahead and try it. Let's see. ChatGPT. I'm going to go to this. We'll do this. And then I put this in. I want to feel more confident about public speaking. This is just an example. Can you write 15 positive affirmations for me that will help me feel this way? Boom. Let's see. Oh, wow. Here, 15 positive affirmations to boost your confidence in public speaking. I speak with clarity and confidence. My voice is powerful and people want to hear what I have to say. I enjoy sharing my ideas with others. Each time I speak, I grow more confident. You see, you got all these options here. And then that at least gets you thinking about it, gets the, brain juices moving, right? So I love that. A bunch of direct suggestions for you. Really be specific with these. This is another pro tip, okay? Remember, my suggestion wasn't, I want to be on TV, because then I might have ended up on the nightly news, okay? I didn't want that. I didn't say even, this is a tricky one, I didn't even say, I want to be on Big Brother, Because, I mean, if that was the case, my brain and the universe, of which our subconscious mind is the bridge between our brain, which is the 3D reality, and the 5D reality, which is universal intelligent, right? Which is a whole different training. But if I would have just said, I want to be on Big Brother, the universe could have been like, cool, great, let's see you on season 50, right? And that would be ages from now, and that isn't what I wanted. No, I wanted to be on Big Brother 24. I wanted to be on that season, which was the next season. So my suggestion was, I am a house guest on BB24. Now, what I should have done, okay, don't do like me, but what I should have done is said, I want to win Big Brother 24. Instead, I got fourth, okay? Should have rephrased that looking back on it. Again, you want to state these as fact. I didn't say this, right? I didn't say, I really want to be on BB24. I really want it, right? Then my brain would have been like, great, let's keep wanting it. You're not going to get it. Let's keep wanting it. Okay. The statement needs to be a direct reflection of the reality of the mental state that you want to inhabit, stated as fact. Okay. I want you to think of direct suggestions as the suggestions we are giving your subconscious mind. Okay. Now, let's talk about the other type of suggestion that we got here, okay? We have indirect suggestions, okay? Now, you're going to encounter these suggestions when you're listening to your hypnotherapy brain training audio recordings, when you're working directly with a hypnotherapist. We call them indirect because they're kind of hidden, right? And there's a reason why they're hidden, okay? The language patterns that are hidden within the text, within the audio, it could be a subliminal sort of way, but not typically. I mean it more, and I'll give you examples so you guys know, but we're doing this so that we can bypass the critical factor of the subconscious mind, okay? So that conscious part of your mind can't say, whoa, hold up, we don't believe that yet, don't let that in, right? We're trying to circumvent some of that resistance that may come up, especially when you first start training your brain, okay? So let's just give some examples of indirect suggestions, okay? I could be directing you to imagine a place where you feel very calm, a place where you feel very safe. And I might say, imagine you were there in your calm place. Okay. And so in your brain, you're imagining this beautiful waterfall and meadow and everything, right? But did you notice here, I said, imagine you were there in your calm place. Now, it's so imperceptible the way that I say it, but look, this is a direct suggestion right here. You're calm. I'm telling you, you are calm. That's a direct suggestion in there. Here's another one. There's really no need to focus on the good in every situation. And so notice if I say that, notice how it's just so casual. I say there's really no need to focus on the good in every situation. I'm using how your brain interprets or doesn't interpret negatives to actually embed a positive, suggestion in there for you. The real suggestion I'm saying is focus on the good in every situation. But what I'm doing is I'm saying there's no need to do it. So the conscious part of your mind, if there's any conscious part of you still slightly online during the session, you're like, oh, she's not asking me to do anything, that hard. This isn't difficult. I don't even really need to do this all that much. But your subconscious mind is hearing what I'm actually saying here, which is focus on the good in every situation. Okay? So really, these things are usually hidden within larger sentences. We don't really recognize them consciously as such, right? And so, it's kind of sort of like, I like to think of it this way. It's kind of like dangling a little doggy toy in front of the camera when you're trying to get a good picture of your dog, right? It distracts the conscious mind so that the subconscious mind can then go make those really deep changes. Again, I use these all the time when I work with my clients and my students, especially if that particular client or that particular student might be prone to experiencing some resistance to positive change, okay? We incorporate those to sort of ease the resistance. So now those are our suggestions. That was the first sort of methodology that I mentioned. Let's talk about the other brain training technique that can help you feel a little bit, well, not even a little bit, a lot more confident and a lot more positive, right? These are visualizations, okay? And not just really any visualization, although all type of mental rehearsal and visualization is really important, but these are particularly releasing visualizations. And they are especially helpful when they're paired with the suggestions that I just mentioned, okay? The direct suggestions, they're like the cake, and the releasing visualizations are the frosting. They're a nice add-on. They're a nice addition. So adding in a releasing visualization metaphorically gives your subconscious mind the directive to release what's no longer serving you. So to release those old thoughts, those old habits, the old ways of being, the old programming that's no longer matching who you want to be. So we usually pair that with a metaphor, with a visual, with a feeling that allows us to speak the language of the subconscious mind. Now, the subconscious mind, it speaks to us in metaphors. It speaks to us in visuals. I'm sure you've experienced a lot of this language while it's speaking to you as you dream at night, right? Metaphors, visuals, that's your subconscious mind speaking to you. But we can use it here deliberately in the hypnotic state to create a state of change within us. So let me give you some examples, okay? Here's some example. Oh, let's get rid of that. We're done with that. Releasing visualizations. Okay, I want you to imagine. Let's just use self-doubt, for example, okay? I want you to imagine that all that self-doubt is in this really heavy rain cloud. You put all that self-doubt into that rain cloud, and then you send that rain cloud far, 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 far away, far off into a distant land, and you can see it just way off there on the horizon, and you allow all that self-doubt to just rain down on that distant arid land. That distant dry land is now being doused with that old self-doubt. And as you watch it just rain that old self-doubt all away, you might even see a rainbow start to appear there. A rainbow start to appear, and then the sunshine of your confidence, the sunshine of your positivity begins to just shine on you, and you can just feel the rays of positivity just kissing your skin. That's one example. Let's look at another. Pretend that you imagine, visualize that you're putting that self-doubt, you're just gently putting it on a leaf that's attached to a tree, but now that tree has decided to release that leaf, and you just notice that leaf of self-doubt is just drifting and floating, down, down, and down, until it lands in a stream, a gurgling, rushing stream. And you just sort of notice as that leaf just sort of floats down the stream, down and down, far, far, far away, until you just can no longer even see the leaf. That's right, let's look at another. Maybe even that self-doubt looks like, I don't know, it can take any sort of form. It can look like an energy. It can look like an object. It could look like an animal. It can take any sort of symbolic or metaphoric form that you see or feel or experience there before you, that self-doubt. And however it looks, however it appears to you, however you sense it, I want you to just shrink it down. I want you to just imagine that you take that image and you just make it tinier and tinier and tinier. You shrink it down until it's just like a little tiny little speck. It's just like a little speck that could fit on the end of a pin, right? It's just a very little tiny speck. And once that self-doubt is all the way down into that tiny, 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 tiny little speck, I want you to just flick it away, or you could just blow it away. Just blow it away. And just watch as it dissipates. You can't even see it anymore. It's no longer there. That's right. Or you might even imagine, we've been using self-doubt so much here. Maybe let's use the idea of fear instead, okay? You could imagine that a fear, whatever fear it might be, you can imagine that it represents to you in some way. And it doesn't have to look this way, but if I were to ask you what that fear looks like, what its sense is like, maybe you would describe it that it's like this big, huge monster that's just leering over you. It's just towering over you. You know, that's how you might interpret it. And then we can start to play around with how that might look. We can start to play around with what that might be like, right? And instead, we can see it differently, okay? We can see it differently. And so how we might begin to kind of see that is we can start to speak the language of our subconscious mind. And these negative things, we can begin to change, right? We can begin to change and see them differently, right? And so we can take that big, scary, gray monster with fangs that seems like it's looming over you, and then one by one, we can play and alter that image. So if it's a picture of a scary monster, I almost want to picture that it's like we're taking it into Photoshop, right? We're taking it into Photoshop and we want to alter it. We want to give it opposite qualities. So if your monster had fangs, what would it look like if this fear had dentures instead? And it decided to remove its fang dentures, and it was just left with a gummy mouth and smile, okay? It might even make you chuckle, right? To see that in your mind's eye. Maybe instead of it being huge and large and looming, now you just shrink it until it's just 2 inches tall. Instead of it being gray, let's make it yellow. Okay? And so now you have this gummy little 2-inch tall yellow gnome looking guy. And maybe you decide to make it start to dance. Okay? Oh, well, this gnome's blue, but you see what I'm saying? How do you feel when you think of your fear like this little guy? Okay? It's a complete different sort of experience, right? The fear doesn't seem quite so scary now, does it? And so the situation that this fear was tied to, it starts looking not quite so scary either. So just really see, feel, and experience what that would be like, right? To be back into that situation that you once feared, but now you're in it in this changed way, right? Now you got this fun little gnome there with you that's, maybe mildly annoying, but nothing to be afraid of. And so let me just tell you this, okay? If you're like, Brittany, what the heck are you asking me to do? If all this seems very ridiculous to you right now, I understand. I get it. Your conscious mind is listening to this video. But I want you to understand that we aren't operating on the conscious level when we're in the hypnotherapeutic state, okay? We're in the subconscious mind. We're in the subconscious state. And so these changes are actually very, very powerful to the subconscious mind. So you see, when we kind of start to play around with some of these qualities of these things, when you play around with the qualities, you begin to change your experience of it and your brain's interpretation of it for the better. Here's kind of a last example for you. For anxiety, I love imagining putting an ice cube on that anxiety, okay? And just watching as that ice cube of calm, that ice cube of peace, it just melts over that old anxiety and it just eases it right away. Oh man, don't you just feel relieved even just hearing that or even just thinking of that image? It's even more impactful when your conscious mind is on the bench, it's resting, and just your subconscious mind is listening like we do in a state of hypnosis. I use visualizations all the time. In fact, I think in this training alone, I've used many, many visualizations to describe things to you because our brains remember metaphors. They remember things like this, right? So I want to just for a moment, I'll share my screen again to show you guys something later. But let's stop this for now. Okay, so these work really, really, really well, okay? They change our internal state and they allow us to see situations in a new light. Okay, so there are just a few last things, really important things that I want to mention here, okay? Ultimately, your brain training comes down to your ability to decide to train your brain. That's really the most important thing of all, to say yes. Feeling more positive is important to me. My quality of life is important to me. Feeling confident is important to me. Here are the things that I want to do in my life that would benefit if I had more of these confident, positive qualities. My experience of my own life would change if I had more of these qualities. You have to want it. If you don't want it, you can't train. Your brain literally won't let you, okay? You have to want it. And so that's one of the reasons why, and I don't share this very often, but if you've ever worked with me one-on-one, you know this process is one of the reasons why when I work one-on-one with my hypnotherapy clients, I vet them beforehand. Okay? It's a waste of your time and it's a waste of mine if you aren't willing to show up and do the very relaxing work. Okay? You're not going to get six-pack abs if you don't show up to the gym. We all know this. You won't feel positive and confident if you don't commit to your own brain training. But to make these decisions, to say, yes, this is what I want. Yes, this is who I want to be. Yes, this is how I want to feel. That's so powerful. Okay, half the work is already done. Boom, there, half your brain already trained. Okay, you got 3 of your six-pack abs just by making that singular decision. Wow. But to not make the decision or the commitment to yourself and to bettering your mind, I mean, that's when you're just in this sad, perpetual catch-22, right? You're running around in this hamster wheel. You're getting exhausted. You want things to be different, right? But you're unwilling to give 30 minutes for 30 days and do anything about it. Okay? So you're going to perpetually waste far more than 30 minutes over far more than 30 days lamenting about how you feel, feeling miserable, giving up on missed opportunities. I mean, if I think back to myself and the depression, like how many days did I spend depressed? How many hours did I spend in bed before I discovered hypnosis? That if I just would have dedicated to the time to this, that I would have saved so much time, right? It's all because you didn't make one simple decision. I don't want that to be you, all right? If you have less than 30 minutes over 30 days, we're talking about one life-changing month. You can think positively and you can feel more confident. You don't even have to have done hypnotherapy before. Hypnotherapy is a skill, okay? The more you do it, the better it becomes, the deeper you go, right? It just gets more and more impactful. Day 30 does way more for you than day 1 will do. Okay? It's just like working out at the gym. Your first workout, you're a lot weaker than you'll be at your 30th workout. Okay? You see progress as you go. So what I'm saying is, it's not that you even have to wait 30 days to see results. No, you feel better and you feel better as each day goes by. So let me share with you something else. I want you to take a look at this. Let's just... Sure, we'll go over here. Okay. Take a look at this. Be confident in 30 days. Yes. This is that program I was talking about. This is how we implement all these things. Of course, I just taught you how you can do it yourself, but a lot of times we need kind of that guidance. We need the training wheels that can help with this. So I want to share with you some of these results around being confident that some of my past students, past clients have received, okay? My confidence is renewed. I have this little voice in my head that reminds me that I have choices. I have control of my mental health. I highly recommend Hypnotherapy with Brittany. Look at that. Oh, I love this one. So this particular person, their dream that they want to feel more confident about, the belief that was for them is to build a TikTok. And they successfully built one up to 1.2 million followers with 67 million likes. Look at that. Okay. This other person, you've helped me start thinking in a completely different way about my manifestations, but also the way I think and feel in my day-to-day life as well, to the point that people around me are noticing. I mean, look, other people are starting to notice these things. I'll paraphrase this one, but this was a teacher who was not very confident about speaking in front of other people. But then she was asked to give a presentation to present this gift on behalf of the entire staff at her school to a teacher that was retiring. And she said, I didn't hesitate for a second when I agreed to present the gift to her. I stood, I made everyone laugh, said a couple sentences, and she cried when I gave her the gift. Never in a million years would have agreed to do that before you helped me, even though I desperately would have wanted to. So look at that. She was able to do this. She said, it felt amazing. I truly feel like I can be myself in any situation now. Major kudos to you. Okay, here's another person, an actress. She was acting. She took an acting class in Paris. Yeah, she took an acting class in Paris in French. Wasn't her Her, English was her primary language. She had never acted in French before. She was nervous, but she said she didn't get consumed by her nerves. And I have you to thank for that 100%. Her work felt a lot more relaxed. You were amazing. Your clients are lucky to work with you, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm very happy that she said that, but you guys know this. Here's another person, a college kid. He came in first overall in the men's 100 meters. I also not only broke the track record, but I broke the previous record I set. So excited. It feels great. I can now officially walk away from college without a single regret. I mean, this is what happens when you believe in yourself and you start to believe in your dreams. Like things you wanted to do just happen. Here's another manifestation success story. Because we can, when we believe in ourselves, that's when we manifest, right? I used that hypnosis audio to manifest a job as a teacher. Okay, this course is for people other than teachers, okay? I just happen to have a lot of teacher clients. So I did it only one time. Then I started thinking about my other goal. Weeks later, I get a message on LinkedIn from a job recruiting asking if I'd be interested in a job as a student teacher at a school adjacent to my hometown. End up applying for the job, did 2 interviews. My first day is July 2nd. Wow. I mean, that is just astounding. It's just so exciting. And I'm sharing all this because I want to let you know, here we are, learning how to train your brain. But if you're focused in the wrong direction, if you're not spending your time doing the kind of training that we mentioned, and not even that much time, right? I said a max of 30 minutes a day, okay? If you're spending more time focused on your problems, on why you can't do this, on why you're the exception to the rule, you will find every reason to turn things around and go in the opposite direction, right? We got to turn it around so that you can go in a more positive, more confident direction. Anyone who I know who's filled with self-doubt, they don't train their brains. I haven't met a single person who trains their brains and is yet still filled with self-doubt. All my clients that used to feel that way but no longer do, they all share one quality in common. They all made the commitment to turn around their thinking and to train their brain. And I just love sharing their stories. I think their stories are worth sharing. Of course, those were just a sampling of the many, 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 many stories, because it reminds you that confidence takes on so many different forms too. Like what I was sharing before, like confidence can help you with everything. It really reminds you of what is possible once you have your brain working for you and for your dreams. So if you happen to want to learn more about this course, I'll link to it in the description below. It'll help you do a lot of these things that we did here today. Otherwise, wow, that was a crash course in brain training. You did a fantastic job. Implement these techniques when you go to bed tonight. And I'm just so excited to see who you will become as you do so. All right, I'll talk to you later.